Our first reading this morning is from the Gospel according to Matthew, chapter 27, verses 45 through 56. From noon on, darkness came over the whole land until 3 in the afternoon. At about 3 o'clock, Jesus cried with a loud voice, "Eli, Eli, lama sabachthani?" That is, my God, why have you forsaken me?" When some of the bystanders heard this, they said, "This man is calling for Elijah." At once, one of them ran and got a sponge, filled it with sour wine, put it on a stick, and gave it to him to drink. But the others said, "Wait, let us see whether Elijah will come to save him." Then Jesus cried again with a loud voice and breathed his last. At that moment, the curtain of the temple was torn in two from top to bottom. The earth shook and the rocks were split. The tombs also were opened, and many bodies of the saints who had fallen asleep were raised. After his resurrection, they came out of the tombs and entered the holy city, and appeared to many. Now, when the centurion and those with him who were keeping watch over Jesus saw the earthquake and what took place, they were terrified and said, "Truly, this man is God's Son." Many women were also there, looking on from a distance. They had followed Jesus from Galilee and provided for him. Among them were Mary Magdalene, and Mary, the mother of James and Joseph, and the mother of the son of Zebedee.
Our second reading for today comes at the end of a very long story. It is the story of Absalom's rebellion. And it's long, and it's complicated, and it's drawn out, but the sum of it is Absalom has just fallen in battle. And now messengers are bringing news to David. And you'll notice at the beginning of this passage, there's a little bit of hesitancy about who ought to bring this message, and the reason for that is that David had a reputation, an earned reputation, for killing people that brought him good news. So listen now to the end of this story and for God's word in our lives. Then Ahimaaz, son of Zadok, said, "Let me run and carry tidings to the king, that the Lord has delivered him from the power of his enemies." Joab said to him, Joab was David's general, "You are not to carry tidings today. You may carry tidings another day, but today you shall not do so, because the king's son is dead." Then Joab said to a Cushite, that is an African who was a member of the army, "Go tell the king what you have seen." The Cushite bowed before Joab and ran. Then Ahimaaz, son of Zadok, said again to Joab, "Come what may, let me also run after the Cushite." And Joab said, "Why will you run, my son, seeing that you have no reward for the tidings?" "Come what may," he said, "I will run." So he said to him, "Run." Then Ahimaaz ran by the way of the plain and outran the Cushite. Now David was sitting between the two gates. The sentinel went up to the roof of the gate by the wall, and when he looked up, he saw a man running alone. The sentinel shouted and told the king. The king said, "If he is alone, there are tidings in his mouth." He kept coming and drew near. Then the sentinel saw another man running, and the sentinel called to the gatekeeper and said, "See, another man running alone." The king said, "He also is bringing tidings." The sentinel said, "I think the running of the first one is like the running of Ahimaaz, son of Zadok." The king said, "He is a good man and comes with good tidings." Then Ahimaaz cried out to the king, "All is well." He prostrated himself before the king with his face to the ground and said, "Blessed be the Lord your God, who has delivered up the men who raised their hand against my lord the king." The king said, "Is it well with the young man Absalom?" Ahimaaz answered, "When Joab sent your servant, I saw a great tumult, but I heard not what it was." The king said, "Turn aside and stand here." So he turned aside and stood still. Then the Cushite came, and the Cushite said, "Good tidings for my lord the king, for the Lord has vindicated you this day, delivering you from the power of all who rose up against you." The king said to the Cushite, "Is it well with the young man Absalom?" The Cushite answered, "May the enemies of my lord the king and all who rise up to do you harm be like that young man." The king was deeply moved and went up to the chamber over the gate and wept. And as he went, he said, "Oh, my son Absalom, my son Absalom, would I had died instead of thee. Oh, Absalom, my son, my son." This is the word of the Lord. Jesus, in an episode told slightly differently across 3 different Gospels, gave us 2 commandments that he said were the greatest, were the most important. What are they? What's the first one? Right, you shall love the Lord your God with all your heart, with all your mind, and with all your strength. James says with all your muscles, which I think is And the second is like it, he said, right? And what is the second? The golden rule. You shall love your neighbor as yourself. And he said, on these 2 commandments depend all of the law and the prophets. Now the verb at the center of these 2 commandments is love. Right? That's what they're about. And if we're going to trust Jesus, if we're going to believe that all of the law and the prophets depend on these 2 commandments, then it has to transform the way we look at the Bible. The rest of the Bible, it gives us a question, right? For us to look at the rest of the Bible, as we read any other passage in the Bible, we should be looking at it and saying, what does God's love look like? That is, if Jesus tells us that we should love the Lord our God with all our heart, with all our mind, and with all our strength, and that we should love our neighbors as ourselves, what is love? What does it mean? Because people have all sorts of definitions of love. We can love a remarkably narrow set of people and still claim that we love everyone. And the Bible is, in a way, our answer to that. It's less of an answer and more of a conversation. It's a dialogue. But it exists in response to this question: what does it mean to live in the light of God's love? And what does it mean to love like God loves? What is it? And the Bible is this collection of histories, of songs, of moments in which God's love was revealed to God's people. It's the story of God's love. And so, when we read any story, even stories like this one, the question for us is, what does this tell us about God's love? Now, today's story is not an easy story. It's not a friendly story. It's not a story that I would tell to children, as noticed by me using a different story today. It is, if you read the whole thing, it is long, it is brutal, and it is complicated. There are no heroes in it. There are no good guys in the story. It has more blood and sex than anything you'll see on TV, and more backstabbing than the Game of Thrones. It is a rough story. But even in this story, God's love is revealed. Now, I'm not going to go through the whole thing, but if you want to start reading somewhere around 2 Samuel 12, you will get the whole thing, and it is rough. But where we are today in the story is at the end. What has happened so far is that Absalom has rebelled against his father David. And David, at that time, spent a lot of time in the palace. He had troubles of his own. And while David was spending all of his time in the palace, Absalom was outside at the gates of Jerusalem, quietly undermining David's rule, saying, "Oh, golly, if I were king, I would be sure to hear your plea. Oh, yeah, it's just so rough that David doesn't have time for his constituents anymore." And then he steals off to Hebron and he gets himself crowned king. David doesn't even know what happened. And all of a sudden, David has to flee Jerusalem for his life. He is pursued like a deer. He and his allies, the few people that are loyal to him still, barely make it across the river Jordan with their lives. Absalom has taken everything from David. He takes his his nation, he takes his throne, he takes his palace, he takes his household. And David is left in the wilderness with nothing. And eventually this comes to a battle, right? The people who follow Absalom, the Bible tells us all of Israel against those who are loyal to David, they go to battle. And on the eve of battle, David's only concern is this: deal gently with the young man Absalom. That's what he tells us on. He doesn't give them a rousing battle speech for God and king and country. No. Deal gently with my son Absalom. And in the battle, it's sort of an unpleasant, but I think it was intended to be humorous. Absalom gets caught in a tree, gets hung up in a tree, and Joab goes and pierces him in his side and kills him. And he ignores the command of Jesus. And what we read today is what happens when David finally hears the truth. You can see there's all of this hesitation, right? They're afraid to tell him exactly what happened. Ahimaaz, son of Zadok, knows better than to give him the truth. He says, oh man, there was a great tumult. I didn't quite see what happened to Absalom. It's only the Cushite, the man of Africa, that maybe doesn't know quite as well David's heart, that tells him the truth. But when he gets those tidings, when somebody comes, David doesn't ask, what happened in the battle? Did we win? Did we lose? Are we free? Am I king again? Is it going to be me? No, he doesn't ask any of those questions. He says, is it well with my son Absalom? With the young man, what's this guy's son? Is it well with the young man Absalom? That is the only question he asks of the first messenger. It's the only question he asks of the second messenger. And when he finally hears it, we hear those famous words, oh, my son Absalom, my son Absalom, would I had died for thee. Oh, Absalom, my son. So where is God's love in this story? What does love look like? What does this story tell us about God's love? David's cry is God's cry. It is the cry of a heartbroken father who has lost his son. In that moment, David is not a king. David is not a leader of his people. David is nothing else but a parent. In that moment, David can't think of nothing else but his son. It doesn't matter. The whole nation is at stake. His life is at stake. But he hears nothing else but his son. He gets news of victory, and yet he mourns this one rebellious son. David has 99 sheep in the fold, but he would give anything for his one lost lamb. David's cry is God's cry. We see that cry on the cross. On the moment that Jesus died, all sorts of things happen. The temple curtain is torn in two, and the separation between us and between the Holy of Holies is eliminated. There's a giant earthquake that rattles everyone. The dead rise up from their tombs. This is God's cry. It is the heartbreak of a father. Oh, Jesus, my son, my son. Oh, Jesus, would I had died for you, my son, my son. In the same way, Jesus cries out on the cross, right? Jesus says, my God, why have you forsaken me? Jesus feels alone. He feels abandoned. He is in despair. The union of these two things in one God, that is the love of God in Christ. It is the heartbreak of a parent, that feeling of impotency, that you can do nothing, that terrifying feeling of worrying about your child. It is the cry of the anguished and suffering son. It is the feeling of despair. It is the feeling of fear. It is the feeling that in suffering nobody can understand you, but you are alone. And it is the union of that helplessness, that powerless love with the Almighty God that reveals what love truly is. Love is the willingness to be vulnerable, the willingness to suffer for another person. See, love is dangerous. And love's not dangerous because people are going to arrest you for loving somebody. At least in most cases, there have been some examples of that. But for the most part, love is dangerous not because something external is going to happen to you, but because if you love somebody, you are going to get hurt. Whether they want to hurt you or not, it's going to happen. To love is to risk being hurt. To love is to feel helplessness in the pain of the other person. To love is to care more about their own life than yours. It is to say, would that I had died for thee. To love somebody is fundamentally dangerous because love is fundamentally selfless. To love somebody is to choose their happiness over your own. And in a culture that values the pursuit of pleasure and our own happiness above all else, to truly love someone selflessly and generously is an act of resistance. The story of the love of God is the story of the power of being helplessly in love. Because that is what God is for you. God is helplessly in love with you. It doesn't matter how many times we have rebelled, how many times we have rejected God, what we have taken from God, how we have destroyed God's household, God's kingdom, God's family. God is helplessly in love with you. Helplessly, dangerously in love with you. The story of God's love is a story of a God who loves a people like Absalom and who redeems them with the power of helpless kindness and peace. It's the story of God who could watch from a distance, but instead who chose to come down in the flesh to know our pain and suffering, to sit with us in our misery, to experience the abject despair of pain and loneliness, and the heartbreaking impotency of being able to do nothing about it. And because God knows that pain, because God chose that pain of being helplessly in love, that pain of being hopelessly abandoned, that is the time when we are made holy, when we are never more close to God than we are in despair and pain and hopelessness. Because God chose despair and pain and hopelessness to be with us. And we are never more like God than when we are hopelessly and helplessly in love. When we would do anything for the care and blessing of somebody who is not us. Because God is helplessly in love. Because God dared to be helpless in love, because God dared to be hopeless in abandonment, pain and misery and anguish and suffering and despair and hopelessness, they are now God's. And because they are God's, they are made into God's holiness. When we are broken, when we are hurting, when we are in despair, when we are helpless, when we are afraid, when we are scared, God is with us and God is making us into God's victory. All of these things are made holy by the steady, faithful, We're never closer than when we suffer. We're never more like God than when we are helplessly in love with our neighbor. And we're never more surprised than on Easter morning, when that love reveals itself not to be powerless, but to be incredibly powerful, to be the victory of God's love, of God's vulnerability, of God's helplessness. When we pass through the grave of suffering and death and pain into the blessing of eternal life, and our cries for eternal joy. Because if God's suffering is our suffering, if God's helplessness is our helplessness, then God's resurrection is our resurrection too. It is the blessing of eternal life that we are heirs to. God's love is our inheritance, which pulls us through heartbreak and into the victory of the love of God that conquers all sin, that conquered death in Jesus and will conquer death for us, revealing the truth of the power of powerless love.